Hello, folks. How you doing today? Pat here from East Coast Blue Jays, November 12th, Wednesday. On this episode, I like to talk about John Schneider not becoming the Manager of the Year, the 2025 Manager of the Year. It did not go to John Schneider, unfortunately. Who did get it was Stephen Vogt from the Cleveland Guardians. Yes, he won it last year, the 2024 season and the 2025 season. Unfortunately, for some reason, he had more votes. Stephen had 17 first place votes and John Schneider had 10 first place votes. Why? That's a good question. But a little bit of stats I'm going to read out to you. So John Schneider 2024, this is what he had last year. 74 wins and 88 losses last year. He was 5th in the American West. He was last place in his division last year. It was a very disappointing season last year for John Schneider. This year, 2025 season, he went 94 and 68. First in the American League East. Best in the American League. The Toronto Blue Jays, John Schneider's Toronto Blue Jays, had the best record winning in the American League. Yes, I said that right. Not the Guardians, the Toronto Blue Jays. Stephen Vogt, last year, he won the American League Manager of the Year as well. Last year, he went 92 and 69. He was first in the American League Central. This year, the 2025 season, he went 88 and 74. First in the American League Central as well. So 2 back-to-back years, he was first in the American League Central, which is a weak Central, what I think. In compare of the American League East-West, we get the Yankees, Boston, Rays, and the Orioles. But considering from last year and this year, John Schneider went up. There's a 20 win difference from last year and this year. For Stephen, he's down 4 wins from last year. He had 92 wins last year. He had 88 wins this year. That's one reason. So, not sure exactly the reasoning of it. But anyway, I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a couple reasons why I think John Schneider lost to Stephen. And I'm just going to read this out for you. So John Schneider managed a strong Toronto Blue Jays team that made a deep playoff run. But Stephen Vogt of the Cleveland Guardians won Manager of the Year because voters usually base the award on regular season performance, not post-playoff success. So that's one reason, which is not a good reason. I mean, John Schneider had a better season than Stephen this year. I'm going to carry on, though. So Vogt led a younger, lower-budget team that exceeded expectations. So they did end up giving up some of their players. They gave up Shane Bieber, but Shane Bieber was hurt. So turning a roster that May thought would be rebuilding into a legitimate contender. So he hit. Okay, so for one reason, Stephen had a young team. They're saying it was a rebuilding team. And it was a very low budget team, meaning there wasn't a lot of players that the Cleveland Guardians had on their payroll. So they didn't have a very high payroll. The Toronto Blue Jays did. Okay. So Schneider, meanwhile, managed a team that was expected to be good. So even though he did a solid job, voters tend to reward surprise success stories rather than teams meeting high expectations. So amplified. Schneider got beat by Vogt because the award rewards overachievement, and Vogt's Guardians overachieved more than the Toronto Blue Jays did. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. So they had a low-budget team, they had a lot of young players, and then it was more of a rebuilding team this year. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the Toronto Blue Jays. Blue Jays did have a higher payroll. We had a lot of great players like Bo and Vladdy, but you got to think about this too. We had a lot of injuries. we had a lot of injuries. We had a lot of, I call them the bottom feeders between the 6 and 9 hitters. We had the Buffalo Bison team up. We had David Schneider. We had Ernie Clement. We had Nathan Lucas. We have Joey Liperfido. We had all these young guys in our team. What about them? We had a young staff too. And not only that, some of our regular players that's been out most of the year, Tony Taters. I think he might have played 20, 30 times this year. So, yeah, we had a high salary, but this guy we're paying a lot of money for. He didn't play all year long. Like I said, he only played 20, 30 times. Bo Bichette missed a lot of time. I think he missed around a couple months. Dalton Varsho, he got back late because he had shoulder surgery. He didn't get back for at least another month into the regular season, and then he went out again with a leg hamstring. So he was out for a little while too. Let me continue. Jimmy Garcia, he was out for the whole season. He was our 8th bullpen guy, or one of our main guys. He was out for the whole season. Bolden Francis, he's the starting pitcher of the Toronto Blue Jays. He only pitched a few games, and he was out for the remainder of the season. I can carry on with Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer, same thing. He only pitched 5-6 games because he had thumb injuries. Then he had back problems. He is an older gentleman, 41 years old. So when you say high expectation, overachieve, I think the Toronto Blue Jays pretty much overachieved themselves as well. We used a lot of our young guys. And another one I forgot to mention, Addison Berger. All these guys started from their freaking minors. Berger, Davis, Liperfido, Ernie, Nathan Lucas. So they can't give me that excuse that they use a bunch of young guys. We had a bunch of young guys on our team too. So that's how I feel about that. And another thing too I like to bring up, there's 2 guys who cheated the game. You know who they are. And they played for the Cleveland Guardians. One was a closer. And the other one was a bullpen guy. And they both played for the Cleveland Guardians. Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz. They're in big trouble right now. They were indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice. So I'm just going to read this out to you. So yeah, these 2 guys, Emmanuel Clase, he's the closer of the Guardians, and Luis Ortiz, he's a starter, have both been indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice. And this is what they're getting charged with. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, honest services wire fraud conspiracy, conspiracy to influence sporting contests by bribery, money laundering and conspiracy. The indictment alleges the pitchers agreed in advance with co-conspirators to throw specific types of speeds of pitches in MLB games, and the bettors placed prop bets accordingly based on inside information. So example, Class A allegedly began participating as early as 2023 of May. So how did the coach of the Cleveland Guardians did not know about this? He must have had some sort of clue, and I'm getting to that point. Ortiz reportedly joined around June 2025. One seated instance on June 15, 2025, Ortiz allegedly agreed to throw a ball on the first pitch of the second inning in exchange for about $5,000, and Class A was paid for arranging it. Overall, bettors made at least $400,000 plus from this scheme. Both pitchers have been placed on the non-disciplinary paid leave, so they're not getting paid by the MLB while investigation proceeds. So they're in big trouble here. Important. So indicted, not convicted. These allegations under U.S. law, the defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty, of course. So for now, they are no longer pitching. They are out of the game, and if you're gonna cheat the game, you're gonna get fined. These guys may get sent to jail for 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. But anyway, to my point is they've been doing this for a while. Stephen didn't even know about this, I guess. So my point is, if these two players were pitching for the Guardians, I think this manager should have been disqualified for what happened to his team. I mean, if these two pitchers were throwing games, there's no reason why Stephen should be allowed to be even into this discussion. Maybe it's too harsh to say, but anyway, it is what it is. I'm just saying that it's not fair. John Schneider should have won this. I think he had a better year than Stephen. I mean, we were up against tough opponents, and for John Schneider getting right to Game 7 in the World Series, he did a phenomenal job all year. A lot of people don't seem to like him for some reason. That he's the one that messed up the World Series. I mean, for your information, he got to the World Series, people. Yes, he made bad calls here, he made bad calls there, but overall, he did a great job. So I think John Schneider got snubbed. He should have won it. Unfortunately, he didn't. And I think there's one media, I forgot what her name is. She works for the Toronto Sun. Yes, she works for the Toronto Sun. And don't mark my words, you're going to have to Google it. And she voted for Stephen Vogt, not John Schneider, hometown boy. But that's just the way it is. So, yeah, that's my take on that. Well, congratulations to Steve. But I do really feel John Schneider should have won this. He was snubbed. He had a better record. I mean, coming back from 20 wins from a previous year, that's quite amazing. And especially Stephen losing 4 wins from last year. He had 94 last year and 80th this year. And I also like to mention, too, that the Cleveland Guardians got beat out in the first round, the wild card, by the Seattle Mariners. So I think that's a big difference. And you can't go by Guardians. They were a rebuild team. They were using a lot of young teams. They had a low budget, which exceeded expectations. But as far as the Blue Jays side, yes, we had a higher payroll. But a lot of our players that were high payroll were not even playing. And we did have a lot of young players. We probably had 6 or 7 of them in the league. Not only that, our pitching staff. I mean, you got to think about Trey Savage is one. And I can't even think. But there's a few in the bullpen that were young too. They're rookies. Mason Fluharty. There's another one. There's another rookie. So you can't give me that. John Schneider should have won it. As far as I'm thinking, he is the manager of the year of the American League side. So that's my take. But thank you all for coming in here to East Coast Blue Jays. It's been a blast. There's lots of trades coming very shortly. Hopefully the Jays will get a guy like Kyle Tucker. He may help out in the outfield for sure. If not, that's fine. We definitely need to help. We need a lot of help in the bullpen, even starting pitchers. I know there's a lot of starting pitchers out there up for grabs, and hopefully the Jays will get one of these guys and help out this ball team. But like I said, thank you very much. Leave a comment below. Smash that like. Tell me how you feel about John Schneider getting snubbed. But thank you all for coming in, and have yourself a great night. And like I always say, let's go Blue Jays.